By 1964, the Beatles were already on top of the world, but they were itching to break out of the catchy pop songs that had rocketed them to fame. Babies in Black, the first song they recorded for Beatles for Sale, shows that shift. John and Paul were ready to take their songwriting in a new direction, something moodier, more serious, and not just for teenage girls. The song's got a slow, bluesy vibe, and the waltz rhythm gives it a unique twist for the Beatles at that time. It's one of the early signs they were maturing as songwriters. They laid down Babies in Black at Abbey Road on August 11th, 1964, and it took 14 takes to nail it. John and Paul did their classic thing of singing together into the same mic, just like they did on If I Fell. That blended harmony they pull off is what gives the song its haunting feel. They love the sound of James Ray's If You Gotta Make a Fool of Somebody, and we're aiming for something similar, a mix of blues and pop with a bit of a twist. The waltz time was an unusual move for them, but it helped set the tone for the darker lyrics. The Beatles were fans of James Ray, and If You Gotta Make a Fool of Somebody was in their early live set lists. Fast forward to 1987, and George Harrison would cover another one of Ray's songs, Got My Mind Set on You, and score a #1 hit with it. That ended up being George's last chart-topping hit as a solo artist, and it's a cool way the Beatles' early influences kept coming back around. And speaking of George, he struggled with the guitar solo on this one, needing a few tries to get it down, and Ringo had his own issues keeping tempo on the tambourine. You can hear the tambourine lag for a second, but Ringo recovers quickly. Despite the little hiccups, the final version has that tight, cohesive Beatles sound that made it good enough to stay in their live shows until their very last concert in 1966. What makes this song stand out is the two-part harmonies. When their music publisher, Dick James, asked who sang the main melody, John's low part or Paul's higher part, the band didn't have an answer. Both parts are equally important, which is a pretty cool reflection of how John and Paul's writing was evolving. Paul even said they liked this one because it felt a little more credible than their earlier songs, with a solid middle section that added some depth. But the big question is, who is the woman in black that they're singing about? Well, there's been a long-standing theory that Babies in Black was about Astrid Kirchherr, the German photographer who was close to the band, especially after her fiancé Stuart Sutcliffe, the Beatles' original bassist, passed away. She was known for wearing black, and the timing made people wonder if the song was about her grief, but none of the Beatles ever confirmed that. Paul brushed off the idea, saying they just liked the color black and wanted to create a different atmosphere with the song, so it's probably just another myth that fans ran with. In the end, Babies in Black is a key moment in the Beatles' shift toward more complex, emotionally driven music. It's darker, it's got more weight to it, and it's a far cry from the bubblegum pop they started with. If you're looking for a song that shows where the Beatles were heading as artists, this is one of the first real clues.